We're now in the hands of Lisa Lambert.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobility Council, Tuesday, June the 27th. We have requests for waiver of the noise ordinance on June 29th from 7 p.m. until 8:30 in Cathedral Square. July the 3rd through the 4th from 2 p.m. until 9:30 on Marine Street. July 5th from 2 p.m. until 7 p.m. on Marine Street. August 31st to September the 1st from 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. in Langen Park. September 2nd from 7:30 a.m. until 11 a.m. in Langen Park.
Okay. Everybody good?
Public hearings today is a public hearing to declare the structure at 1823 St. Charles Avenue, 815 Stanton Road, 360 West Highland Avenue, 1301 Lola Street, 501 Euclid Street, 1156 Oliver Street, 7217 3rd Street, public nuisances in order and demolished. And it's also today is a public hearing to fix costs for demolition of structures at 2410 Cone Street, 2559 Reeves Street, 209 Lexington Avenue, 215.5 Norman Street, 3201 Center Road.
Any question, council?
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. David Clark to give the 2022 Alabama Tourism Economic Report. Sabrina Mass to discuss the right to peacefully protest in any government, state, or city chamber. Carl Battles to follow up on removal of abandoned vehicles adjacent to his address. Timothy Hollis, HUD concerns in affordable housing crisis, ARP funding. Ordinance is held over. 88029, authorized the sale of city-owned property located at 1621 Virginia Street.
Question, comment from the council?
Mr. President, as you're aware, I've spoken with, I would say briefly, some of the school board officials and the superintendent, and there's still a bunch of unanswered questions that they both have and I both have. Some hadn't even seen the intergovernmental agreement yet to even know what they were talking about. And to be honest, there was still some concern about, one, how much of the building they could tear down and put back, two, the right of reentry clause. They had no idea of communication, what we're talking about. 3, stadium size. 4, where does the money go from rental of the stadium for events that the city has? So there was concerns that they have, and even the superintendent has, not suggest until we know exactly what we're going to write in this that makes everybody happy, that we get a clear understanding from everyone. And I'm pretty sure by now you guys know the same thing, because I'm pretty sure everybody's talking to everybody at this point in time, because I made a statement to say that everybody needs to be aware of the concerns that are coming, because these are some of the concerns were not even in the language of the sale agreement that we had. So, and I'm pretty sure everybody's aware of that now. And I think that we need to take some time to get it worked out and get it done between the two of us and make sure it goes back and forth in a way that is absolutely right and is going to stand up for everybody. So,
Ms. Gregory.
Yeah, Mayor or Jimmy, just wondering what y'all's conversations have been with the superintendent. I know there were some questions about the monuments law and some things like that. So I'm just curious as to where all that stands.
Yeah, I think the biggest one had to do with the renovation itself and whether or not there was be in violation of the monument law. So we reached out to the Attorney General's office last Thursday, who gave a written opinion by Friday, which we can forward to all of y'all. They've cleared the way for them to renovate or even demolish the stadium, given that they have to keep the name. There's certain conditions under it, but they're able to proceed. I talked to the superintendent on Friday, and he's also got a copy of it, and he was elated to hear that news. But that was the biggest holdup on this transaction.
And I know they had their meeting yesterday, correct?
Yeah.
The school board had their meeting yesterday.
Yes, they did.
Yes.
And they did not take this up, correct?
It's
No.
set for July the 6th
So they're holding it over till July the 6th.
on a special meeting, and the attorneys are working on the rest of it.
Right, they're calling a special meeting. I was under the impression that the Attorney General's response is that only so much of it could be removed because of the structure is the way I understand that read to be. Now, if there's something other than what came out on Friday of last week, then I'd like to see it too.
We're going to be glad, Flo, you have to use it for its original intended purpose, which we are. But it will allow us to, or allow the school board to do what they need to do to renovate that property.
A percentage of it.
I don't think they gave us a percentage.
Yeah, the tax.
Come up here, Flo.
Good morning. The facts that were presented to the Attorney General included that the plans were that the possibility to demolish a substantial portion of the stadium. And the AG came back and said that would be fine.
Mhm.
As far as language about what rental, who receives and who pays the rental, so the city uses it, it's not going to be the city, but that's still being worked out between the Mobile school system attorney and our attorney. So some of the other tweaks were really minor, and I think that we're able to work through that. The big one was the first question.
Yeah, I think they were concerned about who receives the rental for city-sponsored events. So those 5 events, they were concerned that the city would still receive the rental fee of, normally $35,000 or whatever it is. But in that case, the city's never received any of that money anyway, and the city's never gotten that money. My response simply is my understanding that the board always received those fees. So those fees would be whoever the owner of the stadium, which is the school board.
That's
That was my general overall somewhat response. But the response to that is we need to see that in writing. That was one of the requests too, and that, if I remember, was not part of the purchase agreement that I saw that we read, and they wanted that added. The other was the 5 dates. I think we took that out of the agreement, and it needs to be added back. In the right of reentry clause, they're absolutely 100 fine with that in case something ever happens. I don't think nobody has a problem with that, and I think that we need to be, cognizant to that if we ever need to be able to go back and redeem or reclaim that, even knowing that they're about to spend a monumental amount of money out there in case something happens in the future, because our city should never be left without the opportunity to have its own municipal stadium. That needs to be in there too.
I think you've answered some of your questions yourself. The money would go to the owner of the stadium, not the board or the city.
Well, I mean, we know the answers, but their request was that it be included in the purchase agreement, and
That's what
it
I'm
was
telling you.
not in the purchase agreement at that time.
So that's being worked out through the attorneys. These are smaller house cleaning items. The biggest one was the AG opinion. So we're moving forward with that. My personal opinion, we don't need a right of reentry, but that's right.
Mr. President.
Mr. Day, then Mr. Penn.
I'm concerned that we appear to have multiple people representing the city of Mobile negotiating with the school board.
That's not it.
I think that's a mistake. I think that we need to have one person representing the city of Mobile negotiating with the school board.
Mr. President, can I respond to that? As you're aware, there was no negotiation, and even you yourself have been part of those conversations. Those conversations were just a matter of concern that as an elected official for the city who represents people in the culture of what's surrounding that stadium, that the constituency base of the city wanted to know and needs to know, and so does the council person that represent the people needs to know and be sure of that we're going to protect in order to have a nice vote on this to make sure it goes forth. Now, any negotiations that you may think happened did not happen. So I'm sorry if you want to insinuate that, but as an elected leader of the city, I think it's prudent that we all know the truth about what's happening when it comes to whatever we have to pass on this agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. So on last week, we passed this in a governmental agreement with the idea of the board having this work session. I commend Councilman Carroll and everyone, Councilman, to reaching out to try to figure out what's going on. I just would like to know, have they sent, they had a work session, have they sent any documentation back with anything from this work session saying this is what they're working on, or this is the information they would like to see? Like, what happened throughout that work section? What has been the communication? And is it in writing?
So to answer your question, yes, these edits are in writing. They're going back and forth between the city attorneys and the court attorneys as they begin to tweak the language of the contract. I can tell you that when we left Friday, the big issue was, can they renovate the stadium? That question has been answered by the Attorney General in writing, and now we're proceeding with tweaking all the language, which will eventually come back to you in a red line form so that you can take a look at it. But we're working out the legal issues of what the school board wants to see in the contract, what the city council wants to see in the contract.
So it'd be prudent to lay it over for another week.
But
So it'd be prudent to lay it over for another week until we get the correct language and know what we need to pass.
the intergovernmental agreement is what we're now,
I thought we
the
passed
sale, the
we
purchase
thought
of
we-
tort.
We passed the original intergovernmental agreement last week. So now we're looking at a sale agreement that I think we should lay over until we know exactly what the language is.
I think you can go ahead with the ordinance and contingent upon the intergovernmental agreement. There's a lot that needs to be happening at LAD that we need to move forward with.
I'm aware of the turf situation, but we're talking, did we not pass the intergovernmental agreement
You
last
did
week?
pass it
All right,
in its
so
original form.
that's right. It's moved forward. So are you telling me that we have a new intergovernmental agreement that we like to pass other than
I
what we
think
had
you'll
last
see
week?
it return. I think that you can continue with the ordinance, the purchase agreement, contingent upon the approval of the intergovernmental agreement.
Is that written into the sale agreement, the contingency? Or is
Can
it
we
just
add the
all- is it just
contingency or is it
automatic?
in it?
The sale agreement, is it contingent on the intergovernmental agreement, or is that just part of the agreement anyway? I mean, is that the way the contract reads as far as the sale agreement?
No.
Contingent on the intergovernmental?
Yeah, so the intergovernmental agreement will be an exhibit to the purchase sale agreement.
But in the sale agreement, is it written in the sale agreement that the sale is contingent upon the intergovernmental agreement, or is that just automatically a part of the sale agreement?
It's part of the terms and conditions.
Oh,
of the sale.
okay, so it is, okay.
Is it written into the terms and conditions of the sale agreement?
Yes.
So it's in the terms on the sale agreement. If I go pull it up, I can find where it says contingent to the intergovernment.
It would say contingent to the intergovernmental agreement. And I'll have
It needs to be added, is what you're saying.
I'm saying that it references the intergovernmental agreement and it's consistent with the intergovernmental agreement, but I don't think it has the phrase contingent upon.
So it doesn't have to say contingent, you're saying it would be a duplication of wording, right, okay.
Mr. Perry? I guess I was just trying to maybe just get some clarity from our attorney that, I guess, have you seen it in the sale agreement?
Yes, Councilmember, and I'm showing it to Councilmember Carroll right now.
Talking about 9.3 intergovernmental agreement. It says on or prior to the closing purchaser shall enter into an intergovernmental agreement with seller. So I'm assuming that the intergovernmental agreement is one that we've already passed. Is that not correct?
The council has already passed an intergovernmental agreement. My understanding is that if the right now, if the school board were to accept that as written, that would be the intergovernmental agreement. I believe we're going to get a counter draft back from them, which would require further council action.
So in this, I don't see where the words contingent to they agreed to the intergovernmental agreement accepted from them is here. We don't know what their counter agreement's gonna be. So you're asking us to move forward with something where we don't even know what the counter intergovernmental agreement is gonna be.
If you don't approve the intergovernmental agreements, you don't have a deal.
Yeah, but we've already approved of what was set to them. So we can't approve what we don't know is there yet.
I'm not asking you to approve what you don't know, I'm asking you to approve the sale, just as it's been laid out, and we'll work out the deals on the intergovernmental agreement. The intergovernmental agreement is not, completed, and you don't have a deal.
That's correct. And we also know that it's already been, some edits have been made and returned to the city. And so it's coming back to the council.
I'm sorry, Mr. Linder, where is it?
9.3 on page 5.
It says on to. It says, on or prior to closing, purchaser shall enter into an intergovernmental agreement with seller, which allows, one, the city to use the property for certain athletic or entertainment events at the discretion of the city for a period of at least 25 years, and two, the sale and consumption of alcohol on the premises during city events. The way I read it, we don't close until we have an intergovernmental agreement.
Right, but we don't, we've sent them one that they're gonna counter is what we're saying, and we don't know what the counter is.
That's right, but you still don't have, we can pass this ordinance today.
Yeah.
We can pass this ordinance today, but we're not closing on the sale until we have an intergovernmental agreement that everybody's agreed to.
So when we pass this ordinance today, it'll state that we have a right of reentry, it'll state a minimum of 30,000 seats, it'll state.
It doesn't say that at this point in time. You know what you passed last week, it does not say that.
No, the intergovernmental agreement doesn't say that.
That's exactly right.
But the sale agreement that I was given last week was missing, section 1, 3, 13, 14, and whatever else other sections, I can't remember the sections anymore, that did not have those things in them. So if we're gonna pass a sale agreement today, then that sale agreement needs to have those things in them.
That was in the intergovernmental agreement. Those things were in the
Was that a
intergovernmental
sale
agreement.
agreement you gave me last week, along with the
You were,
intergovernmental agreement?
I think last week you were looking at the intergovernmental agreement.
So that was a red line intergovernmental agreement?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so that was not the sale agreement?
Correct.
So then our revised intergovernmental agreement then should include those things that were missing. But we passed the original last week. So what are we going back to do?
I can provide some clarity, Mr. President. The intergovernmental agreement we passed last week did, in fact,
Have all those
include the
things.
right of
Yes, sir.
reentry.
I'm aware, that's the original.
Yeah,
But it seems like they're wanting to pass something different here today, which is the right to sell. What is it?
this is a purchase and sale agreement.
That's right. So the purchase and sale agreement should have those same things listed out. What we're purchasing, what we're selling, what's the agreement, those things.
I think what we're trying to say is that the intergovernmental agreement is an exhibit within the purchase and sale agreement. So if you pass this, it's conditional upon us achieving that intergovernmental agreement, which will lay out the details that you're asking for.
So this would be a pending sale, basically.
That's correct. You're not closing on anything. We're proceeding with the sale agreement contingent upon this intergovernmental agreement. So it's a conditional authorization is all you're giving us.
If I've never seen them go separate, that's why it's so messy in my head. Normally they're uniform. You know, we're not uniform. We're trying to push one and tackle the other.
I think all we're trying to do is proceed.
I didn't read the whole thing. I kind of breezed through it. The other thing I didn't see in here was there's normally a clause within these contracts when it's municipal property that has to declare or have the council declare the municipal property no longer needed for municipal use. Is that kind of I guess, just burst out because of the intergovernmental agreement, it was going from one, support from one government to the other one? Do we get that way because the school system still provides a municipal use? Or if so, then, I mean, that needs to be clearly stated, because there are gonna be a whole bunch of people that state that, hey, you're giving away municipal property that should be used for municipal content. And if we're not doing that, then that needs to be clearly stated that, hey, in our sale, we have that covered because this property still will be used for.
Public purpose, public.
So is that within this agreement? Because it doesn't line that out. Or should it line out? That, I think that should be shown somewhere for reference.
I think you,
Somebody going, I'm sorry.
so it's still used for public purpose. There's no need to declare it not used for, no longer needed for public purpose because it's going from one government entity to another government entity, which will still be used for public purpose.
Anyone else? Mr. President, Mr. Penn. Is it a reason we need to do it? I mean, the school board is holding theirs over to July the 6th. What's the reason to doing everything together and not doing everything together? What's the reason?
By proceeding with the purchase and sell agreement, contingent or conditional on the intergovernmental agreement, you're merely just moving us forward so that we can begin to take whatever action we need to secure land. I mean, so we're under a strict timeline, which I think Councilman Carroll knows.
Yeah, Mr. President, or Jim, we own LAD. And while we own LAD, we can move forward with property that we own without any type of agreement. We own the dirt, we own the building, we own the structure. We don't have to wait on anybody. Now, it's our choice to wait, but we don't have to.
We can't move forward as administration without council approval. My understanding is the council wants to move all of these items along together.
It's unfortunate that sometimes things get held in a political whirlwind, but sometimes these things happen. But as owners of that facility, we don't have to wait.
Mr. Penn, you finished?
I'm just going to reiterate that we as in the administration cannot move forward unless the council begins to take some action.
And I understand that. And I just said, it's unfortunate that sometimes things get caught up in a political whirlwind that they don't have to, but we own the building. And again, as I stated last week, sometimes we have choices and we make choices, and we make choices sometimes based solely on political wins and wants.
Mr. Penn, you finished? Anyone else?
So what are we doing with this item today? We're going to call for the question, or we're going to hold these two items over?
I'll talk to all of y'all a little bit more in between now and 10:30. We'll figure out something.
Ready to go forward? I'm ready to move forward with both the purchase and sale agreement and the various repairs out there, just for the record.
Madam Clerk. Mr. Days.
I'm not in favor of moving forward on the repairs unless we move forward on the sale.
Like I said, it's unfortunate.
Madam Clerk.
Consent resolutions held over 40, 452, 453, and 454 are declaring structures at 2623 First Avenue, 2661 Knoll Street, 748 Stanton Road, public nuisances, and ordering them demolished. Resolutions held over 08690.
Yeah, Mr. Beck.
If we have 1 second, just for an update, we have one item here, the 2661 Knoll Street. I do recommend we table this completely. The owner has begun repairs. They've almost completed the exterior. They're working on the interior. And they're working also with Build Mobile for inspections. So I do recommend we table that. However, the other two were held over 60 days, and there's been no action by the property owners to get permits or begin repairs.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk.
Resolutions held over 08695 approved purchase order to Election Systems and Software for election materials for special municipal election. 08696 approved purchase order to Empire Truck Sales for 5 knuckle boom trucks. 08697 approved purchase order to Harrell's for fertilizer. 08698 approved purchase order to Hellas Construction for synthetic turf. 08699 approved purchase order to Quantico Tactical for patrol rifle optics. 09-700, transfer funds from capital improvement project engineer right-of-way and testing to project GA Camp. 21-701, authorized contract of Bay Area Contracting for citywide facility parking lot resurfacing and spot street repair. 21-702, authorized contract with J. Payne Organization for relocation of Hank Aaron's home. 31-703,
Hey,
authorized.
whoa, just a minute. Have we talked to any of the members of the Aaron family? Who did you talk to? Ricardo and I talked to Gail and Frida, I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago. And at that time, they were extremely concerned. Before we move 100% forward, I mean, it wouldn't hurt if we reached out and let them know that it's coming back to the neighborhood. Ricardo and I mentioned that it was going to possibly go to St. Stephen's Road because they thought it was going out to Africatown when they called. And we had just found that it might go to Africatown. I think that previous, what was it, Monday or Thursday? Yeah, we're aware of that. I'm aware of that now. But what I'm saying is have we talked to the family to let them know in the last, since we've made this decision, that it will be returning to what, 3 or 4 blocks from their original home site? Have we talked to them at all? Do they know? Because they want it to be, they quote, they told us both, please let us know before you move it where it's going. Have you talked to them?
No, I haven't talked to Aaron. I talked to Ricardo Woods, Attorney Woods, and he shared that he was going to be reaching out to the family and all that, and keeping up with the idea. So I get back with him. But I don't have their contact.
They'll be out for the rest of the week. If possible, if you want to reach out to them, that'd be helpful just to let them know.
I'll give you Gail and Frida's number.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they at least wanted to, they were really upset, and they really wanted to be extended the courtesy of knowing where this house was going. And I'll give you that number. We'll look it up, give you Lita, Gail, Frida, and all of them before this next council, before we get downstairs.
I was under the impression that you spoke to them about preference, and Tomerville was the preference, is what you told me.
Ricardo and I spoke to them after that again, because the last person I talked to was Atlanta, but we didn't talk to the family direct. Ricardo and I spoke to Frida and Gail, and they both said they had no idea. They were really upset that it was going to be, that they thought it was moving out to Africatown. Ricardo and I both told them that it was going to now go over on what we thought to be St. Stephen's Road. They told us or asked us at that time before it's moved, would you please call and confirm with us and let us know where it's going to land? And I'm asking again, have we done that? I can't ask Ricardo because he's not here. So I asked you. Okay, so I'm going to say between now and 10:30 that maybe Corey and I can call and say, or somebody can call and say, hey, this is where it's going to go. We hope this is the best possible place for it. We have to move it somewhere. We know that the family wanted it to be part of baseball, but this is the best place we can possibly find for it at this time. So, but that is what they were asking. They were really upset that they weren't kept in a loop because their original feeling on that house is that they wanted it close to baseball because that is what Hank wanted.
Well, one of the things that, when the house was getting planned to move, it was going to Seal Street. I mean, it's not
Seal Street.
On Texas Street.
Yeah.
First of all, I mean, when you think about Texas Street, Hank Aaron has nothing to do with Texas Street.
No.
So if we're going to move it, if we got to move the home, we need to move it back to Tomerville. Of course, if Attorney Woods haven't reached out, we definitely would reach out. But the best place, of course, going forward, and it's closer to his house. The second thing, when you look at it, it still will be on the same block of the baseball field, Michael Figures Community Center. We have a baseball field right there. And we already been reaching out to LaFleur High School, who plays at that field, Viga High School, who plays at that field. So baseball will be continued, but I have no problem with getting that information and reaching out and sharing that information since that haven't happened. But I would still believe that regarding the move to Texas Street, this is the best location for the home.
With you on that.
Madam Clerk.
31703, authorized grant application to the Alabama Emergency Management Agency for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. 35704, authorized lease agreement between the City of Mobile and the Board of School Commissioners of Mobile County. Ordinance is being introduced. 38030, ordinance to amend Chapter 38 of the Mobile City Code Municipal Court. Oh.
Excuse me. I spoke with Michael Lenter earlier this morning on 35704, that this is the lease between the city and the Board of School Commissioners for Williamson High School. There's just a little technical problem that we picked up on, which is that should be authorized by the council, not through a resolution, but through an ordinance. So I'd like to request that the council table 35704 and adopt an ordinance as an ordinance being introduced under item number 15. The ordinance has been submitted to the city clerk earlier this morning. And, if the council is agreeable to have a motion by the chair with two council persons in support, that the ordinance can be added to the agenda under item 15 and the resolution tabled.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement also. Is this in consent to vote on today, or will it be first read?
It's the first read.
First read.
Thank you.
Go ahead and take it up. Put it on the agenda and then take it up.
It's
It's the same thing.
Man, is it an ordinance? I mean, it's a
That's fine.
difficult
It's just
precedent
another
to
week.
set.
It's just a week. Madam Clerk.
So we're adding 88031, ordinance lease agreement between the City of Mobile and Board of School Commissioners of Mobile County for certain property not now needed for public or municipal purposes.
Yes.
Consent resolutions being introduced. 37705, 37706 are recommending approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a special events retail liquor license to Bottles Up, Inc., Cooper Riverside Park, and for issuance of a lounge retail liquor Class 2 package store license to Hillwood Liquors on Hillcrest Road. 707, 708, 709, 710, 711, 712, 713, 714, 715, 716, 17, 718 are declaring the structures public nuisances and ordering them demolished and fixing the cost for demolition of structures. 58719, declare weeds noxious, group 1643. 6720, approving a water special bonus to the Administrative Services Employee of the Month. 6721, determining appropriation to Mobile Alumni Chapter Kappa Alpha Psi Inc. serves a public purpose and approving payment. Resolutions being introduced. 08722, approved purchase order to University of South Alabama for EMT certification class, $60,000. 08723, approved purchase order to Southern Lighting and Traffic Systems for LED street light luminaries for traffic engineering, $53,880. 08724, approved purchase order to Southern Light and Traffic Systems for traffic signal controller cabinets for traffic engineering, $69,500.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Reynolds.
on 08724, does this include the protected turn at Navco and McVeigh?
The equipment you purchased,
Yes.
I think it's for various, it's for all.
I want to ask specifically, though, does it include this one? Why not?
Some of this is stock, it's just cabinets, that's all it is. It's just cabinets.
So this is to replenish stock, to make repairs at various locations. You got the lights, you've got controllers, you've got cabinets, and then poles. So this is basically bench stock for all the repairs that we do have.
Okay.
There's 4 different items there.
I guess the reason I ask is because, the request was made and money has been set aside for this.
But it wasn't necessarily come before here because it was ordered one thing out of a different account.
Well, my real question is it's been a year, a protected left turn being installed at this place. It's been over a year.
The intersection has to be completed required to do that.
Right. But I understand it takes some time. I get it, but it's been over a year and, it's not a huge item. And I'm
Received the money in October. All the materials been ordered, but there's like 9 to 10 months delay on some of this material.
on wire and what's the delay, I guess?
It's on cabinets, it's on controllers, it's on just equipment in general.
Okay.
We're experiencing that across the board with all of us.
So I guess, when should I expect to be able to tell our constituents that, this protected left turn is going to be installed?
I'll look in to see where we are on receiving it. Projected date.
Okay.
Madam Clerk.
08725, approved purchase order to Southern Lighting and Traffic Systems for signal controller cabinets for traffic engineering, $100,700. 08726, approved purchase order to Gray Bar Electric Company, Inc. for decorative street light poles for traffic engineering department, $27,591.48.
I have a question on that, Jennifer, while you're still here. On the decorative poles, is that just to keep extras in stock?
Yeah, we just want to make sure we've got something that we use.
Is that all around the city or just a certain area? These are just downtown. Are we also ordering for the different areas? Like in my district and Joel's district, where we have some decorative lights?
Yeah, well, we've got those stock.
Those are in stock.
Those are in stock.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's great. That's something that, yeah,
The downtown ones and the other ones.
Yeah.
Because they get knocked down.
Right.
We've got stock of the other
Yeah.
decorations.
yeah. Well, that's great to keep them in stock because that's something we had talked about before, that we do have a lot of the accidents where people run into the poles and we need, instead of having to order every time, to keep them in stock. So that's great. Yeah.
The way of receiving material, especially because they have aluminum and iron in it now.
Yeah.
It's getting close to a year. on that.
Yeah.
Protection is taking us a year to get.
Yeah. I understand. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Can I ask one little small question? I've noticed a bunch of the lights, the ornamental lights being replaced all throughout the city. They all keep looking like that, what's that, that Heritage Marker Brown. Are we gonna paint them Bellingraph green?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk.
21727, authorized contract of J. Payne Organizations LLC for fountain and site amenities improvements at Bienville Square, $3,247,560.
Mr. President,
Ms. Reynolds.
what is the site amenities for this plan?
We've got full set of drawings we can share with you. It's the rebuilding of, it's really everything within the square. It's rebuilding of the fountain base, that basically the bathtub that it sits in. All of the plumbing that goes to that. There's benches, there's new landscaping, there's new lighting, new electrical hookups, so it's sidewalks. All those, and new stone around the fountain area where it's currently concrete, so all that gets replaced. The park will be closed, the entire park will be closed during this construction, because we'll be tearing up all the sidewalks and pathways.
The original fountain's going back.
The original fountain's done, it's been restored, it'll go back as soon as that bathtub piece is repaired.
And
We'll reset it.
The bathroom.
Basin.
The ba-
Basin.
I'm sorry, that was funny. The bathrooms, or have we done them already, or doing them?
The bathrooms.
Are they included in this?
Bathrooms are not being restored. I think I got to double check. Yeah,
Say that again, I couldn't hear
we're
you.
doing that. We're doing that internal.
60728, authorize settlement agreement and release of claims. Announcements.
Council. Ms. Penn. Yes, I know we contract a lot of, like maybe mowing and people doing our ditches. Do we go back and have opportunity like to go check their work, what they're doing? Okay, we do that. Okay, all right. Now, because I'm getting a lot of complaints regarding, and I'm seeing like when they weed eating, they only doing half of the work. Like it's patches. I can send some pictures. And so, and
Let me know, send it to me and Keisha, and we'll take a look at it. We send somebody out after each, before we do each weekly payment for the contractor. So if our follow-up's missing something, we need to know so we can address it.
Okay.
Yeah, let me know.
Can I follow up on that? Hey, I want to say that on the Broad Street deal, you guys did a really good job coming back and making sure that that was done right. Those guys actually came out Saturday and all day Sunday to correct it. So when he tells you that they're going to do it, they really came back and did an excellent job on Broad Street. I mean, all the way down. I mean, it looked really good after they cleaned it up on Sunday. There are a couple of medians, though, in the district that are, we think they're mediums, but as I learned in 2005, they're actually public parks. One is on McDonald, the other is on, help me, in between Catherine and O'Shell, where it turns back around that circle there. Those are actually public parks. And if we could kind of step that up the same way that we did Broad Street, it will really help out a little bit. I've gotten a couple of requests. Keisha, I sent you one that I've been getting over and over and over again about the one on McDonald. If we can kind of get that on the list and get to it really soon, because the people have been asking questions about it.
Just real quick, we're in the process of trying to relook how those medians are managed, you know, whether park staff or public services, contract mowing staff does those. So we're in the process of I would say, making some transition between those. So I think that'll address it, but it's just know that it's a significant amount of those areas, and we don't think they're being all serviced as well as they could. So you'll see a change coming in the request for funding in the future to keep those up to speed.
That significant number, it seems like they're all in District 2, because I get all those calls. You know, it's crazy, the cost. And I understand that over the last week and a half, we've had an monumental amount of rain. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with that, but I kind of need to have an answer for those couple of few that they've been asking me about more so than normal.
Just send them to.
I have already.
Mr. President,
Mr. Ray.
I've got plenty of areas that need to be mowed and cut around bridges and everything else. Some of it head high, you know, where Weed Eating Crew did half of it. You know, it came out and got one side of a bridge but didn't go around the other side of it and cut that side of it. So now it's 5 foot. There's some other areas, there's plenty of areas where, you know, additional attention needs to be paid. But my question is, with the transition over to 311, are all of the 311 requests that are in there being just marked complete?
You know, we have the old records of those. We started a new system with the new feeling of the new system, the next gen system, which is still 311. It just goes to a different backbone system of next gen. We still have the records of the old ones. We will continue to try and serve those, but if there's ones that are excessively old, they're not probably going to be addressed. They're going to have to be recalled back into the new system.
I've had an issue over on Wildwood Drive, and Vista Bonita Drive, a few other areas where I had a constituent following up with an SRO that was approximately a year old on trimming some trees. And there's been lots of discussions about trimming trees, but it was marked complete in 311. And here the constituent was just sitting around waiting for something to happen. So I reached out to Public Works. They said, yeah, this thing was completed, you know, back in June or early June. So I said, well, I'll go look at it. And I rode down there, and there's trees growing out into the road. And there's no doubt it didn't get completed. And it just would take one of those, you know, mowers that can tilt it up and put the trees back. But I'm just concerned that maybe marking them complete or letting those old SROs go they're not going to be re-reported, which means the work's not going to be performed.
What I would ask is, if there's any question, just have them call in and register it again, just to make sure. If they would, just call. If they say it's complete, they know it's not, just get it registered again, because that'll be the quickest and most accurate way for us to make sure it gets done. And I know that may be a small inconvenience, but transition to this system is a major effort. And it's very difficult to try and migrate all those and do that.
Yeah, I'm glad the transition's happening. I think it's going to be a helpful and useful tool. It's hard for any of us to convince somebody to call 311 already, right? It's hard for us to do that. They want to call me, or they want to call one of us and say, hey, I reported my problem to you, and they did that sometimes a year ago, 6 or 8 months ago. And, we're single people. We don't have the capacity to follow up on it. So now we have to go down that road again of convincing them once again to call 311. So I'd ask that as new work orders come in on the new system, we certainly do our best to keep up with them. But before we really go full speed ahead on those new requests, we go back and try to take care of the old ones that are still out there, because we've done a lot to convince people to report them in the first place.
Ms. Gregory.
Hey, I just have some big shout outs to some of our folks. Talk about mowing. The Ziegler Cody Road area always looks great. Our team does a terrific job out there. They get out there with the weed eater, the mowers. I mean, it looks terrific. So thank you, Shonda and Mark, if y'all will please pass along those thanks. Also, I have a thank you. I just got a note today from some residents in the Manor, which is off McGregor. They had a big old tree that had fallen and they were trying to get it cut down. Worked through Mark and Jim and the whole team. And before it was even predicted or estimated to be removed, they were out there ahead of time, and the residents of the Manor are just very thankful, and they sent a thank you. So again, if y'all would just pass those thanks along. And I can't help but thank Kim Carmody, who hit the ground running when she came into town. She has taken care of 2 emergencies in District 7 already on weekends. Being available to call out staff who need to come and take care of some things at parks. So thank you, Kim. Thank you for all the work that you have done, and to the team who has to respond. So thank you very much.
Mr. Carroll.
Well, since we're ending on positive notes,
Let's leave it that way, huh?
on Sunday at James Hills Park, Texas Street, there must have been 60 pickleball players up there playing when it got cool. It was absolutely divine. So that is a tremendous asset that I see turning into a huge community asset. And there wasn't one tennis player out there, which kind of made me think that maybe we don't need the tennis ball courts, because people actually had to wait to play pickleball up there. So I'm not going to mess with the tennis courts. It was just a suggestion. But I would think that Crawford Park might need a little bit of help. But, I like the idea of competitive games and people having to wait and call next and watch the game and the cheering as other people play. It was absolutely awesome. So I think that it was an extreme positive. It's a very good start, and everyone is enjoying it. So absolutely awesome, guys.
Anything else from the council? Anything from the administration?
Flo, could you please hang around for a few minutes?
We'll see each other at 10:30.
Corey, you want to hang around for a few minutes? Linda.